Welcome back to CWM University, where we learn together, and this is our series on 30 classroom management tips. We have made it to tip 11. If you haven't seen our tips 1 through 10, I'll try to place them somewhere on this video where you can go back and watch 1 through 10. But if you have watched 1 through 10, thank you so much for making it this far. Welcome to tip 11, organized classrooms. For an organized classroom, we want to make sure that we have everything labeled, have our seated in some type of organized way, which we'll talk about in a second, and then make sure the environment is predictable. Now, why is labeling in our classroom important? It's important because it helps you not have to repeat things as much. So say, for example, if you have your seats labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you tell a student to go to seat 5, they can just look at the back of the seat and go to seat 5. Also, if you have things labeled in your classroom like where to turn in work, maybe where to start to line up, important to have things labeled. So therefore you set boundaries for yourself, especially if you have an area that you want to yourself. And so the students can easily find things and know where to turn them in and to turn it into the right basket. So if you have multiple periods and you're in first period, I don't want your work turned in to my 7th period bin. So if I have it clearly labeled, you should then turn it in to period 1. As we look at this chart right here, we want to keep in mind that when we're planning activities, what type of seating is for the best. So if I want to do group work with my students for a couple of days, I may arrange my seats into around the table as a group work. Or if I want partner group, I may have them 2 to a seat. And then if we are taking a test, I suggest, the traditional in the row lines for students taking tests, unless you have testing folders where you can make sure that they have privacy when taking their test. In order to keep it organized, you want to also make sure that there's moving room where students can get in and out their seats without bumping into each other, because that could cause a problem, and that you can move freely around to help your students. Finally, we want to make sure that our environment is predictable. You don't ever want to change your classroom and not let your students know, because they're going to freak out. Promise you. It's just like you coming to work and going to your classroom and somebody changed your desk around and didn't tell you. It's going to throw you off a little bit. So to keep an organized classroom, make sure things are labeled, especially when you want students to be or turn things in. Make sure the seating matches the activity. And then also make sure it's predictable. Make sure the students know where to go. If they sit in seat 5, they should know exactly each day where seat 5 is. And if you happen to change anything in your classroom, please mention it so the students won't be thrown off by it. Tip number 12, being prepared. You want to make sure your lessons are prepared, the materials are prepared, and mentally that you are prepared to teach in your classroom every day. Having your lessons prepared may differ for different districts or different schools, but at least if you have your lessons planned out for a week or for 2 weeks, you can also have your accommodating slides planned out for that. I always use Google Slides in my classroom to keep me in order and to make sure I knew what was supposed to be teaching or what activity we were supposed to be on. But it's different for each teacher, but at least try to be prepared for like at least 2 weeks in advance if you can. That way that you don't feel like you're behind, and it's kind of calm when you come inside. I know on Wednesday, I'm teaching fractions. I know on Thursday, I'm teaching how to add fractions. Now, having your lessons prepared also means that your materials are prepared. Now, you don't want to be that teacher like, hey, can you watch my classroom real quick? I need to run to the copy machine. You want to make sure that you have enough copies. And sometimes I will always have extra copies because a student may waste something on a copy, or maybe I get an extra student, a new student come in the classroom. You want to make sure that you have not only your copies prepared, but if you're planning an activity, make sure you have enough pencils, enough bags to pass around that have the little activities in it. However you're doing the activity, make sure that you have your materials prepared, whether that's being prepared the day before the activity that you're going to do, or the day before the lesson, or a few weeks ahead of time. It just depends on your planning and how does your mind operate. So once we have our lessons prepared, we have our materials together, we want to make sure mentally that we're ready to teach the lesson. I like to go over in my head how the lesson is going to flow. First, we're going to do our do now or our bell ringer. Then we're going to go over our objective for today. Then we're going to do some problems together. And then eventually we'll get to our exit ticket. But I want to know the flow of my lesson. And usually my lessons follow the same type of format. The activity might have differed, but the lessons follow the same type of format. So mentally, it was easier for me to prepare for my classroom. And I also think that's helpful for the students when your lessons flow a certain type of way. Once you're calm, cool, and collected, and you're collected, and you're mentally ready to teach those lessons, that will transfer into your students. You decide what vibes you're going to have in your classroom based on if you feel antsy or not prepared. The students can tell, and it rubs off on them as well. Tip 13, varied instruction. For varied instruction, we want to make sure that we're reducing boredom, that we're reaching all our learners, and to increase engagement. Just like this kid looks bored, we've all been in those PDs where we're like, oh my goodness, when is this over? And you don't want that for your students. You want your students to be excited about coming to your classroom. They know they're not going to be bored. We want to make sure that we're varying our instruction and how we instruct our students to keep them on their toes, keep them awake, keep them excited about the material that we're learning. To decrease boredom, we have to make sure that we're reaching all of our learners. So there are different types of learners. We have our visual learners. We have our kinesthetic learners. They got to move their bodies while you're teaching them. We have our auditorial learners where they're listening and they can get it as long as they're listening and paying attention. We want to make sure that we're reaching all our learners by at least addressing those 3 types. We have partner work some days, we have group work sometimes. Maybe we'll get up and go read an article around the room. Sometimes we could take them in the hallway and have activities set up in the hallway. Now, before you go in the hallway, definitely reiterate your expectations and how you just want the students to behave. Because if you don't, it will turn into a track meet, guaranteed. Of course, having varied instruction increases engagement, but there's other activities you can use to increase engagement in your classroom. For example, sometimes say, today, I'm going to make 3 mistakes. If y'all can catch me and point out the 3 mistakes I made, then we'll have a little free time at the end of class. So I'll do something like I'm writing on the board and I'll say 10 times 12 is 11. And some student raise their hands. Nah, 10 times 12 is not 11. Okay, we got the 1 mistake. But it keeps them on their toes and they want to tell you when you're wrong. I guarantee you, students do not have a problem with correcting you when you're wrong. So it's fun to do it on purpose just to keep them on their toes. So let's vary our instruction, keep our students from being bored, reach all our different types of learners. And finally, we're going to increase engagement. Tip 14 is clear instructions. We want to give them clear instructions during our activities. Sometimes we have to repeat those said instructions. And then finally, we want to avoid chaos. When thinking about your lessons and how you're planning activities, it is important that you think about how you're going to give out the instructions for the activities. Have to think of them step by step by step. Personally, will write them down on my Google Slides. I will write step 1, step 2, step 3. Put it on the board so the students can see it. Verbally say, this is what I want you to do for the activities. And then I will ask a student, can anybody tell me what we're gonna do today for this activity? Emily, go ahead. Emily will go through steps 1, 2, and 3. And if she does it correctly, we'll say, okay, everybody got any questions? If not, the students will correct Emily. Think about it. These are kids that we're talking to, that we're teaching. Have you ever told a kid to go outside, check and see if there's a package outside, and they come back in and tell you there's a package outside, but the package is not in their hand? Yes. We have to give clear instructions and tell them exactly how we want the activity to be done. Please go outside and see if there's a package. If there is a package, bring the package back inside with you. So it's the same way when we're giving instructions in our classroom. Sometimes we do have to repeat ourselves. So like I'll say, hey, let's stop, turn, let's do partner talk. Tell your partner what we're going to do in this activity and list the steps. Then after they do partner talk, I will come back together as a whole group and I say, now can somebody raise your hand and tell me what we're expected to do for this activity. So make sure the instructions are clear, and to make sure that if you need to repeat it, you have to repeat it. Now, I'm not saying repeat it 5, 6, 7 times. However, there may be a couple times that you need to repeat the activity. Maybe after you said it out loud, you're like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Hold on. And then maybe you have to adjust your instructions. But they're just self-monitoring, as you should be doing as a teacher. For clear instructions, you want to make sure that your activities are step by step. You know what to do. Repeat them if necessary. And if all of that goes well, you will be able to avoid some chaos. You're not going to always be able to avoid all chaos, because there's always going to be that one student that wasn't listening. But majority of the chaos will be to a minimum because of that. Tip 15, consistent routines. For routines to be consistent, we need predictability, we need some type of teaching flow, which I mentioned earlier, and then we need to be reliable. There should be some type of predictability when it comes to your classroom. So the students knew I stood at the door, I greeted them when they walked in, they got their stuff out, I already had their do now on the board. They take their pencil out and get ready on it, get to work on their do now. After their do now, they finished before I came in and the timer went off, then they started either reading a book or working on their daily homework. This is a routine I kept consistent throughout the year where they knew, come in, have us take your stuff out, and get to work. Therefore, I didn't have to come in and ask maybe a few students, what are you doing? Why are you not doing your work? They knew what was expected of them, and this is a routine that I kept consistent. There's nothing like going to a workout class and y'all always do arms, then legs, then abs. Then one day you get in there and we're doing abs first. You looking at everybody like, why are we doing abs first? We always do arms first. So the students feel the same way in your classroom. If there's a routine, they know what to do, they know what's expected, they get to work. But if that routine is not in place, then that's when chaos starts to occur. And we don't want chaos. Also, our teaching flow should be predictable, where the students know kind of the flow of our lessons. So for example, after we did the do now, the students completed that, we went over the answer. Then we went to our objective for today. And then I will instruct, and then we'll do a problem together. Then the students will do their work on their own. The activity, we always had an exit ticket to summarize our learning. And then finally, for consistent routines, make sure that you're reliable. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If you told the students that if everybody gets an A on this activity, I'm bringing donuts, bring the donuts. Because I promise you, they're not going to let you forget that you didn't bring those donuts. If you tell the students, hey, I'm going to call your parent, call the parent. Just make sure that you're reliable, so that's something else that they can be consistent in that classroom. It's a routine that they know. Hey, she says she's going to do something, she's definitely going to do it. Whew. We made it to tip 15. Can you believe it? We made it. So we went through tips 11 through 15. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. If you have any other tips that you suggest for other teachers or new teachers or current teachers to use, put those in the comments. Also, if you have used any of these tips already in your classroom and you know they work, please put that in the comments. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I would really appreciate it. Like it, share it with somebody. And of course, until next time, peace out.